Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the newest character in Rivals of Aether 2, that of course being Etalus, and this is supposed to be an intermediate slash beginner level guide to the character. So we're not going to be going over some of the more crazy tech that he has, but if there is something a little niche that you do think is important for Etalus players to know, just leave a comment down below so other people are able to, figure that out, and let's just get right into it. Starting off with Etalus' grab game, you're going to have back throw just as your basic kill throw. Not a lot to say there, but it's definitely nice that he has one. Now, down throw is pretty weird because down throw sets up the opponent into a tech chase unless they DI it really horribly, in which case you are probably going to be able to get a conversion, but I wouldn't really rely on this as a super consistent comboing tool for Etalus just because you are able to DI it so easily. I would either elect to go for an up throw or for a forward throw, and when you go for up throw and forward throw, I think you go for up throw at lower percents, especially considering that you can kind of chain up throw into itself. Now, this works to like 20%. After that, maybe even before that, it's not really going to work. But even after that, you can confirm this move into an up tilt, you can confirm it into an up air, you can confirm it into a back air, neutral air, which is all fine and dandy, but I do think that forward throw is the better choice since Etalus actually is able to slide when ice is on the ground, allowing him to just get really solid follow-up basically wherever the opponent ends up DIing. And also basically, no matter what the percentages, Etalus is actually able to make up that space, whether he's like sliding in with a up strong like you can see right there, or going in with just an up air, just using the ice to actually get that extra momentum. So basically for Etalus, I would say that forward throw is definitely going to be your best combo throw. You're going to be able to confirm off of it at pretty much all percents, and if ice is on the ground, that is also going to be really easy to confirm off of. Now again, if ice isn't on the ground and you just kind of throw them off stage, then you're probably not going to get a big conversion. It's kind of like a down throw situation where the DI is definitely going to matter there. But center stage, you got a chance to slide, you're definitely going to be getting a solid conversion off it. So at the lower percents, I would like to go for an up throw. But once you start getting to those mid-high percents, I'd say forward throw is definitely the way to go. And that's especially true if ice is in front of you. Really quickly, I realized I forgot to mention what the special pummel does, and basically just if the opponent hits the ground, the ice shards are then going to try to stab into them, and I think it's like pretty much immediately as they hit the ground. So as long as you're not just standing there as the opponent, you are going to be able to shield these. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but if you do not shield them, or you don't jump, or you don't just avoid these ice shards, then you are going to get frozen in the ground. You are going to allow Etalus a pretty decent punish there. So just thought I should also point that out. And also his special getup, it just allows him to continue sliding as long as ice is on the ground. So again, not amazing, it's still a special getup, but it's definitely like a silly special getup. And again, just thought I should mention now because I won't later. Normally, I save specials for last, but I do want to get this ice mechanic out of the way. So starting off with Etalus' neutral special, you're going to have the big Falcon Hammer, which is basically just a Falcon Punch in terms of the offensive utility, but in terms of defensive utility, this move is a whole lot better because it allows you to apply armor to yourself. And armor is really important for kind of two big reasons. The first one is going to be that it just makes it so you take less knockback, which is definitely nice, especially if you're like at 150%, and I mean like a lot less knockback. You're actually definitely going to feel survivability when you have this armor on, but more importantly, it gives you super armor during both your strong attacks and your up B, and the up B I'd say is definitely the main benefit of the super armor. Also gives you shard at the end of your strong attacks as well, making it a little bit harder to potentially punish you on that, but it's the armor on the up B where you definitely get a majority of the value in my opinion, because it's not only when you're charging up the up B, but also when you are ascending. So it doesn't give you a free recovery by any means, but it at least allows you a chance to get back to the stage, and I think that's something that Etalus is going to have a very big problem with. I think his recovery is easily the biggest flaw of him as a character, and having that armor makes it a lot more manageable. So as the Etalus player, it's really important that you have armor on, because if you're put into disadvantage without it, it can feel like a nightmare. Next up is going to be Side B, and I chose this stage very deliberately when I wanted to make this video because it has no platforms that are going to be blocking Side B from effectively allowing you to easily put ice on the ground, making your neutral just significantly easier. And I think it is really important as the Etalus player when you are picking a stage that you are aware of how much value you're going to be able to get out of Side B, because if the only way you can apply ice to the ground is just by using up B or forward tilt, it's definitely manageable, but those two commitments are a lot higher risk than just doing a Side B from across the stage and all of a sudden half the field is covered in ice. So be very mindful when you're playing Etalus and picking your stages that you are actually able to get value out of your ice field, because his neutral is just going to be a lot harder otherwise if you can't do so, or you're going to have to do more work to set up his neutral so that ice is on the ground. But using this as a offensive move, it is really strong. It just covers people off stage, and even just clipping them for that half second, making them stay there, allows Etalus to get there with this really meaty forward air, or with an up air, with an up B, or with a down air, really whatever he wants. And when you are recovering as well as Etalus, is a super strong tool to just be coming back with basically a projectile. If someone tries to contest you up there, able to confirm off of it. Now, should be noted that you absolutely can parry these projectiles, so just don't be throwing them out willy-nilly as the Etalus player, because you could absolutely take a big risk there. In fact, as the Etalus player, you can maybe even do a bait where it's like, oh, those, well, I did the bait wrong, but you get the point that I'm trying to say, where you bait the shards so they don't actually land on stage, trying to cover out that parry and then go for a punish. So Etalus shards are something that is really good for him both offensively and defensively, but it's also something that has very clear counterplay, both as the opponent, but also just as the stage that you choose. So be aware of that, and you should be able to get value out of this move pretty consistently. Next up is going to be down B, and I do want to make it very clear that I think this is probably Etalus's worst move, but there is ways that you are able to get value out of it, and it is decently strong. I think the best way to get value out of this move, though, is going to be in a tech chasing situation, where basically you as the Etalus player are covering an option, and then the ice is also covering an option. So if they roll behind me in that scenario, they would get frozen because of the ice. If they roll in front, they would get frozen because of the ice. If not, then the butt is going to cover them. So I do think that down B can be pretty good in that situation. I also think that you can use down B in the situation like this, where you actually take the ledge from the opponent just really quickly with this massive hitbox as well, against like a Zetterburn recovery specifically. I'm thinking like this could be absolutely dangerous, but you also have to remember, if the opponent grabs the ledge, you just like die as the Etalus player. So it is definitely a risk, and every single time you use down B, it is going to be a massive risk, because it's just a very reactable move. But there's also a lot of reward in your favor as the Etalus player. It hits hard. Does it hit harder than like other moves that he has? No, not even close, and that's why I really wouldn't recommend going for it, but it is something that you can get value out of. And again, I think the best usage for it is probably in a tech chasing situation. And the final special for Etalus is going to be his up B, and in contrast to his down B, which I said is potentially his worst move, up B is potentially his best move. This is a very good get off me tool for Etalus, just quickly disengaging away from the situation with a hitbox. You're also pretty quickly able to act out of it with a second hitbox, and once the opponent gets to 70%, this does stop popping them up in the air, allowing you to get conversions, and you can get some pretty serious conversions as well with this move, especially if a platform is in the way. You are able to ledge cancel it, or I guess wave cancel it into a strong attack. Now, I know I didn't get a conversion right there, but that's something that you could do with up B. That is really, really powerful. This is just a super good, not only get off me tool, but once the opponent gets those high percents, it's also a just really good comboing tool, but it's also an amazing edge guarding tool. Isn't that crazy? After all of that, it's not even the best part. I would say the best usage of up B is probably as an edge guarding tool, because the hitbox on it is just so massive. You could just be really boring and just like sit at the ledge right here and just wait for the opponent to try to come grab it. Oh, actually, no, you don't get to, and that's obviously very strong, but you could also just go out there as the Etalus player and try to make a recovery like just not happen, and it's so easy to do because you just get to go out there, and this space under Etalus is just like a kill zone, and you get to set that space up under the ledge, you get to set that space up near the wall, and there's just very little that the opponent can do to actually contest it. So Etalus up B is an amazing, not only defensive tool just as a getaway tool, because it's literally his only getaway tool, but it's also just like a very strong spiking and comboing tool. Definitely something that I would highly recommend as an Etalus player. You need to incorporate in your kit, because it will take your Bair to the next level of play. I can guarantee it. Next up is going to be the strong attacks, and I want to make it very clear that I think forward strong is not a strong that you should be using, just because it does have an inconsistency in the hitbox where it doesn't always link into itself, and down strong just like simply does not have that. Well, down strong does have a hitbox where you don't really get hit that hard. It's in the middle where Etalus himself is, but compared to the inconsistency of forward strong, I would pretty much always just recommend going for a down strong, because it hits similarly hard, it has a decent disjoint, and also it's just way more consistent. And speaking of strong attacks, when you should be doing them, I recommend that you should pretty much only be going for a strong attack if ice is on the ground, or if you're like 1000% sure that it's going to hit. But when ice is on the ground, it allows you to get away with some like insane pressure that I think you would just absolutely appreciate. Like, imagine the opponent is shielding right there. How are they going to be able to get a good punish on me? The answer is they're not going to be able to get a good punish on me. Like, maybe they can get a follow-up with, like, a dash attack or maybe something like that, a projectile, but it's not going to be the follow-up that you should be getting for whiffing a down strong on shield or just whiffing a down strong in general. So sliding with the down strong, I think, is like such a broken thing that you can do as Etalus. Not only because this move is just like insanely strong, but it also just covers so much space around him. Same thing with sliding with the up strong as well. Obviously that space in front of him isn't going to be covered, but just using this as an anti-air for this kind of scooping up your opponent is insanely good. So the Etalus strong attacks, I think, are really good. They're something that you can absolutely be making value out of, especially when ice is on the ground. Again, I recommend that you should pretty much always have ice on the ground as Etalus. Just makes him so much better. But the strong attacks, I think, are kind of the best way to exemplify this, just because you get so much more distance after you do them. So yeah, use strong attacks. They're very good. Don't use forward strong, though. I highly recommend that you just go for down strong. That move is insane. Next up is going to be jab. I've got very little to say about jab. It's just going to be your very basic jab, kind of disjointed with that final hit. It pushes you forward, especially if you are going to be on the ice. And if it pops the opponent up into the air, you are able to confirm it into an up tilt, and I would recommend confirming it into up tilt just because that's such a strong comboing tool for Etalus. But you can also confirm it into a down tilt. You can confirm it into a forward tilt as well, especially if there's no ice on the ground. That's definitely not a bad idea, but it really is just your basic jab. It's not that special. Next up is going to be forward tilt, and I honestly don't have a lot to say about forward tilt. This isn't really like a useful move aside from putting ice on the ground for Etalus. Like, there's no reason that you would ever elect to go for like a forward tilt instead of like a down tilt or an up tilt if you could get either of those moves. But just the fact that it does put ice on the ground is really nice, and especially if you wave dash with ice already on the ground and then do a forward tilt, you are able to get some pretty decent distance with it, since Etalus does push himself forward. So to be able to move forward with this active hitbox that like isn't a dash stack is definitely something that you are able to do with forward tilt. But in general, I wouldn't say that this is like the most useless or most useful move for Etalus. It's just kind of going to be acting as a tilt where he's able to kind of put pressure in front of him, but nothing really outside of that. Next up is going to be down tilt, and down tilt is just a really solid confirmed tool for Etalus. At basically all percents for this character, at mid percents it's going to be a combo tool, at low percents it's going to be a combo tool, and then at high percents it is going to be a kill tool. Now it should be noted that especially at high percents, DI definitely starts to matter a lot more. You are able to avoid this move, but you're kind of put in a situation where you have to DI out, like going away from the stage, or you DI in which case you just get comboed into a forward air. So you really are put in a lose-lose here when Etalus is spamming down tilt at the edge, and specifically like doing a down tilt like this where it reaches out and clips people before they even have a chance to grab the ledge, I think is something that could be super lethal, especially when people are around that like 30-40%. You're able to get a bunch of percent there. So Etalus down tilt, very strong tool, something that he can combo into itself as well as other things once percents get high enough, and yeah, it's just solid. Next up is going to be up tilt, and this move is kind of like a pseudo strong attack in the sense of how you actually throw it out, but it is still going to be a very good comboing tool for Etalus, confirming into basically all of his aerials, and you can confirm into it off of basically all of his aerials as well. You can confirm into it off of back air, you can confirm into it off of neutral air, depending on the hitbox of neutral air that you end up getting. You can convert into it off of down air as well, again, kind of depending on the hitbox of down air that you end up getting. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about down air, but this is a move that you can confirm into often, and I would recommend that you don't kind of throw it out willy-nilly, just because you are going to be taking a pretty massive punish if you do end up missing it. This is a commitment, even though it is still a combo tool, but even at the high percents, it is also just like going to be working as a KO option. You can kill people with this instead of electing to go forward up strong. Again, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just recommend that if you are going to try to steal the stock, you do go for that up strong, because at least you have a disjoint with it. But up tilt can fill that niche. Basically, up tilt is just kind of in this in-between zone of acting as a kill move, but also acting as a combo move, and then in itself it just like does 10%, which is really nice. So if you can confirm into this move, yes, absolutely, I would try to confirm into this move, but I also wouldn't be super greedy and just be trying to throw it out all the time, just because it is a good combo tool. You have other ways to set up into the combo as Etalus with a Nair, with a dash attack. You don't need to start your combos with an up tilt. So in general, the way that I would use up tilt is use it as a combo continuer, but not really a combo starter or ender. You could, I just wouldn't recommend it that way. And the final tilt for Etalus is going to be his dash attack. And I said earlier that I think up B is his best move. Well, it's between up B and dash attack. There really is no contention between these two moves, because this is just such not only an important combo tool for Etalus, but also a very important movement tool for Etalus. It just allows him to have actually insane burst potential when ice is on the ground without actually having to break your fingers by doing a million wave dashes and then like committing with a strong attack or something like that, trying to catch people off guard. So I think that's obviously really good about dash attack, but also just the variety that you get after you do a dash attack. You can confirm it into an up strong, you can confirm it into any aerial that you like. You can also just do a tomahawk grab afterwards. You don't have to go necessarily for an aerial. And if you manage to hit your opponent with the dash attack, or if you hit their shield, you are able to wave dash out of the dash attack as well, which is obviously something that is super good, makes your defensive pressure a little bit better there. So yeah, I would say in general that dash attack is going to be a very important combo tool for Etalus at literally all percent. There's not a single percent window, unless it's like, I guess, like past 150, where dash attack stops becoming an important combo tool. It's almost always going to be just straight up confirming into a Nair or into a forward air. It's always a move that you're going to get value out of. It always is something that makes his burst range better in neutral, and it's just like a really solid tool that you're going to be using a ton as the Etalus player. Moving on to the aerial, starting off with neutral air, and my number one piece of advice for neutral air is that you need to learn how to consistently hit fall this move, because hit falling neutral air is like half of this character's combo game, if I'm being completely honest. It's just such an integral part to his kit, either confirming into an up tilt, and then when it stops confirming into up tilt, it starts confirming into an up air, or it starts confirming into a forward air. And that's just talking about the move out of a dash attack. It doesn't have to be within the context of a dash attack. It's also just like this really solid combo tool that's all around Etalus. It's a good get off me tool as well if the opponent is like just smothering you, just hey, please leave me alone. Personally, I think back air is a better get off me tool, but Nair is definitely not a terrible choice here. So fast falling Nair is something that is really important. Not even fast falling, hit falling Nair is something that is really important to this character. I would highly recommend that before you start bringing Etalus onto the rank ladder, that you can consistently do that. And if you can consistently hit fall Nair, then you're going to be able to get a ton of value out of this move as a combo tool. You're going to be able to convert it into grabs, you're going to be able to convert it into back air, other aerials, up air, basically anything that you want. But just number one, key rule to Nair is to hit fall it. I should also mention there is a sour and a sweet spot for neutral air, and if you get the sweet spot, it's just your normal conversion like always. But if you get the sour spot, there's actually a lot of stuff that you can do afterwards. You can elect to confirm it into a strong attack, which is a little bit risky. I don't know if that's necessarily going to confirm. It's going to be a lot more scenario by scenario. You can also go for a dash attack, which doesn't always connect if you, again, hit them with certain parts of the Nair. You do have to be aware there, but in situations where dash attack won't hit, then up tilt will hit. So you have a lot of variety after you do hit this weak Nair, but if you want just a guaranteed follow-up, then you can just elect to go for a grab, go for a forward throw, and then see what you can get after it. But just thought I should mention that weak Nair is something that you do have to be aware of as the Etalus player. As the move gets out longer, it does get weaker, but you can still absolutely convert off of it. It just doesn't have as much punch. Next up is going to be back air, and back air is kind of similar in a sense to neutral air in how you want to be engaging with it in the neutral and how you kind of want to be starting combos with it, but it's not in the same sense that this is the entire hitbox for neutral air. It's all of Etalus' body, whereas with back air, it's just the kick that is actually going to be the hitbox. Etalus himself is not going to be doing damage, so you have to have more precision with back air, but you also get a little bit of a disjoint with back air, and this is an amazing edge joining tool, by the way. Like, obviously we're on a rock wall, so for this example they're going to be like exploding, but just in general, just having this as a walling tool is so hard to get in against. He's able to do 3 of them within a double jump, which is, I think, very good, especially for a heavy character. Just a super amazing walling tool, and once you do manage to hit your opponent with it, it's also going to be a very easy combo tool. You're able to convert it into a forward air, into a second back air at the right percent. You're going to be able to convert it into a dash attack as well. Basically, back air does everything that neutral air kind of can do, but instead of being this entire hitbox around you, it's just going to be this one hitbox where he kicks out with a disjoint. But that disjoint is really good. It is amazing for walling, and it's a super solid tool. Highly recommend that you use it. Next up is going to be down air, and Etalus down air is kind of weird because this move isn't super great against grounded opponents. It kind of really doesn't do anything. Like, it puts them into a tech chase once you get to a high enough percent, but the problem with it is if you hit the first or second hit, Etalus actually drags his opponents up in the air, and they are no longer getting spiked off this ground. They're rather getting spiked to the ground, so it does put them in a tech chase situation, which I guess is good, but as the Etalus player, I would much rather have this downer actually popping people off the ground. So if you want Etalus downer to consistently pop people off the ground, just hit people with the final hit of it, and then you are going to be able to get your conversion. But otherwise, you are going to not be able to pop people off the ground. It is going to put them into a tech chase situation, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, we love our tech chase situations, but it really is just come down to preference. How do you want this move to work? And I think if you understand how this move works, you're going to be able to find a lot more success with it. And then obviously it's just like this really strong edge guarding tool. You have this lingering downer that just goes out there with the spike hitbox. Super good. And Etalus, of course, is able to make it back from the depth of hell. That's really no problem for him. So in general, I wouldn't really recommend using down throw like in your combos. You're not really going to be able to get a ton of value out of it there, and it is a good tech chasing move, but if you want to use it as a spiking tool, just make sure that you're only hitting that final hitbox. You're going to be able to get the conversions that you want. And yeah, next up is going to be forward air, and forward air is one of the coolest moves that I've ever seen in a fighting game. I just love how this move works. So it's going to act as a shield until you actually decide to swing as Etalus, and he doesn't just hold it out forever. Eventually he is going to put the forward air away, but you're able to hold on to it, and then when you let go, he goes for that meaty swing, and it is a meaty swing, mind you. This is going to be robbing stocks extremely early. Again, we are on the stage that we're on, so people are going to be dying even early, but this is unlocked on its blast zone again at like 100%. This move hits like an absolute truck, and because you're able to actually choose your timing with this move, you have so much tempo mix up with it, despite it having some pretty slow frame data. When someone is off stage, you're able to properly line it up, like go with a fastball and just come slamming down with it, covering so much space. And for the situation where someone's on stage, you can go for this and then just elect to go for a tomahawk grab, not even go for an aerial, just the threat of it. And of course, if someone is coming at you with a counter attack, you jump, you go for the forward air, you hit that attack, and then you respond with your own. This move is incredible, one of his best, and honestly his best move at securing this stock, in my opinion. It's like so consistent at doing so. It's probably the best aerial in the game, and honestly just getting that kill because of the tempo mix-up that you have with it, and because of how hard that it hits. I just think that Etalus is able to get so much value out of it, and also the fact that it's a shield is just really cool. I just like that. And the final move for Etalus is going to be his up air, and I will say that up air is a very good move for Etalus. I do believe that it is his strongest off-stage tool because you're able to basically grab the opponents from underneath, not even really give them a chance at recovery, and especially in combination with all of Etalus's other edge guarding tools, it is just such a good tool for putting the opponent into a horrible position. But even when it's on stage, you can just recognize as the Etalus player, okay, I'm not going to be able to get another neutral air here. I'm not going to be able to get like a back air to keep that combo going. So if the combo is going to end, you should be electing to go for an up throw, in which case you're going to be able to get a tech chase situation, and you might not be able to confirm off that tech chase situation, especially if no ice is on the ground, but you're just putting the opponent into such a bad spot, constantly keeping the pressure off them, especially if they miss that initial tech, then you're almost certainly going to be able to get that follow-up, and it's just such a good stock or tool at stealing those stocks, putting the opponent into a tech chase on stage, or just straight up yeeting them into the blast zone when they are off stage. Up air is absolutely a move that you should be making a lot of usage out of, and honestly, it's one of my favorite moves ever been put in a game. Kind of like forward air. I just really like the vibe that they went with Etalus, if you couldn't tell. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this sport. It's been absolutely unreal as of late. And the final piece of advice that I'm giving to all the Etalus players who want to play this character watching this video is learn how to edge guard with this character. Yeah, his ledge trapping is decent. He's got big hitboxes, sure, but he's got like low-key some of the best edge guarding in the game. You have 3 spikes, one of them being up air, where you can go under your opponent and grab them so they're practically already in the blast zone before they even get thrown. And then the other one is going to be your uppy, which gives you distance, so it's basically no risk to go for. And then the final one is just like a very long, lingering downer that is super easy to hit. And then on top of that, you have forward air, which hits like a truck, and you can pick the timing up, and back air, which is like the most spammable move at the ledge in the entire game, just stopping people from getting back to the wall. So Etalus's edge guarding is amazing. Highly recommend that you try to do it because you're absolutely going to be able to find value from it. And yeah, that's all I gotta really say. Sport's been absolutely unreal as late. If there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.